I walked into my son-in-law's restaurant, the place where he'd promised my daughter a job. Stepping into the kitchen, I froze. My own flesh and blood was hunched over, finishing the scraps left on the customers' plates. My son-in-law Marcus smirked. "A beggar doesn't get a salary," he sneered. Skylar broke down weeping from shame. I didn't say a word. I simply let her out, took her to the finest restaurant in the city for dinner, and then I made a phone call to my brother. "It's time to collect your debt," I told him. The wind that evening was wicked, cutting right through to the bone, but I barely felt the chill. In the pocket of my wool coat, I had a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate gold brooch, an heirloom passed down from my grandmother. It was a gift for my Skylar. Today was supposed to be her day, finally. My son-in-law Marcus Sterling had convinced Skylar to quit her secure job at the local library and come work at his new restaurant, the Gilded Feather. "You'll be the general manager," he'd coo, smooth as silk at family dinners. "You'll be the face of the house, Sky, my queen of the dining room." I didn't believe him then, and I didn't believe him now. But Skylar wanted so badly to be helpful, to have him look at her with respect. She called, her voice trembling with excitement. "Mama, come tomorrow. I'm finally stepping into my position." I stopped at the entrance. The sign for the Gilded Feather flickered with cheap neon. One of the letters was already burned out, making the name look like the Gilded Feather. Thumping bass from some vulgar pop tracks spilled out from behind the heavy doors, giving me an instant headache. This wasn't a place for fine dining. It was a place to get drunk and go deaf. I pushed the door open. The air hit me, a smell that would make any self-respecting chef recoil. A mix of burnt oil, cheap perfume, and something sick-sweet like fruit rotting behind the bar. "No tables," the girl at the host stand snapped, not even looking up from her phone. She was wearing a dress that was way too short and fuchsia-colored, her jaws working rhythmically on a wad of gum. "I'm here to see Skylar Sterling," I said calmly. My voice, used to commanding the heat and chaos of the best kitchens in the city during my own time, was steady despite my years. "She's your manager?" the girl snorted, finally looking up. Her eyes, thick with contempt, skimmed over my modest gray coat and old-fashioned hat. "The manager?" She chuckled, exchanging a glance with the security guard. "Sure, right? You can find your manager where she belongs, those doors at the end of the hall." She waved a manicured finger toward the service entrance. My heart sank. Something was wrong. My intuition, honed by decades in the business, where you could feel the moment a sauce was about to break just by standing near it, screamed. I walked past the hostess without acknowledging her. The hallway was narrow, the walls painted dingy beige and peeling in spots. The music faded here, replaced by the clang of dishes and the hiss of steam. I pushed through the swinging kitchen doors. A wave of humid heat washed over me. Chaos reigned. Cooks in stained whites were yelling at each other. Peelings were scattered on the floor. The ventilation fan roared like a jet engine, but it clearly couldn't keep up. This wasn't a kitchen. It was a sty. I paused, looking around. Where was the office? Where was Skylar in a crisp suit, checking inventory? My gaze landed on the farthest, darkest corner of the room, near the dishwashing station. There, amid mountains of dirty dishes, clouds of steam and greasy spray, was a figure. She wore a soiled apron that had once been white but was now gray with ground-in grime. Her hair, usually neatly styled, hung in damp, sticky strands. It was Sky. But the worst part wasn't where she was. It was what she was doing. She hadn't seen me. She stood, shoulders slumped, hunched over a plate that had just come back from the dining room. There was half a portion of cold, slimy mushroom risotto left on it, already touched by a stranger's fork. My daughter, my proud, smart girl, was shoveling the leftovers into her mouth with a spoon, gobbling it down as if afraid it would be snatched away. Her shoulders shook. She swallowed without chewing, choked by tears and humiliation. The world tilted. My chest went instantly cold, as if someone had poured liquid nitrogen inside. I couldn't draw a breath. The scene blurred, but I forced myself to focus. The smell of that risotto, cheap rice masked by synthetic truffle oil, hit my nostrils, making me feel sick. "Tasty, huh?" a loud barking voice demanded. The kitchen doors burst open, and Marcus walked in. He was in his element. An expensive black suit that fit him poorly, the top button of his shirt undone, his hair slick with gel. He strode through the mess like a king, oblivious to the filth under his Italian shoes. The cooks fell silent. Some started to snicker nastily. Marcus walked up to the sink where Skylar had frozen. She dropped her spoon. The clatter of metal on the tile floor sounded like a gunshot. She was pressing herself against the wall, trying to shrink, to disappear. Marcus didn't even notice me. He was focused only on his wife, and his eyes held a look of pure, sadistic pleasure. She was hungry, he announced loudly, addressing his cooks as if giving a performance. But here at the Gilded Feather, we earn our keep. Since she messed up the lunch orders and caused us a loss. He paused for dramatic effect. She eats what the guests leave behind. A beggar doesn't get a salary or fresh food. She should be grateful I'm keeping her here out of pity. Skylar sobbed, covering her face with her elbows. That sound, the sound of a broken person, pierced through the roar of the vent. I felt something click inside me. It wasn't rage. Rage is hot. It's a yell, a screaming match. What I felt was an absolute icy calm, the focus you get when you pick up the sharpest knife to make one precise, final cut. I stepped forward. My heels struck the wet floor, echoing. Marcus spun around. The smile evaporated from his face, replaced by a look of disgusted surprise. Naomi Parker, he grimaced. What are you doing here? Come to see your little girl embarrass my name? I didn't answer. I walked up to Skylar. She lifted her eyes to me, red and swollen, full of animal dread. She was afraid I would scold her, that I would shame her too. I silently took the plate of leftover risotto from her weakened fingers. It was heavy, cold, and sticky. I turned back to Marcus, looking him right between the eyes. You feed this to your wife? I asked quietly. She earned it, he barked, trying to regain control. She's useless. I picked her up. I gave her a chance. I opened my hand. The plate dropped and shattered with a deafening crash on the tile, right in front of his polished shoes. Bits of risotto splattered onto his suit pants. Dead silence fell over the kitchen. Even the ventilator seemed to hold its breath. Get your coat, I told Skylar, still keeping my voice low. We're leaving. What in the hell do you think you're doing, you old crow? Marcus shrieked, jumping back and dusting off his trouser. His face was purple with fury. Do you know how much that china costs? I do, I cut him off. It's cheap, just like everything else here. I took Skylar's arm. She was so light, so exhausted, as if all the life had been drained out of her. I pulled her toward the exit. If you walk out that door right now, Marcus yelled at our backs, his voice cracking into a falsetto, neither of you ever comes back. You're both fired from my life. You hear? Get lost. You won't get a dime. I didn't look back. I just pushed the swinging doors, leading my daughter out of that hell. We stepped onto the street. The cold air hit my face, but now it felt cleansing, a salvation. Skylar was shaking, clinging to me, letting out soft, guttural sobs. I held her shoulders, feeling her shoulder blades jut out beneath the thin fabric of her jacket. It's over, baby, I whispered. It's all over. But my mind was already racing. I pulled my phone from my pocket. My fingers dialed a number I had deleted from my contacts years ago, but which was burned into my memory forever. The phone rang for a long time. I stared at the blinking sign for the Gilded Feather and felt an old, forgotten power rising inside me, a strength I'd abandoned for a quiet life. A voice answered, husky and guarded. It was my brother Terry Johnson. It's me, Terry, I said, drawing a breath. The pause lasted only a second, but it weighed a ton. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask about my health. His voice was laced with fear mixed with the submission he only ever showed to me. Is it the feds, Nate? He asked quietly. Or do you need the other kind of help? The other kind, I replied, and hung up without waiting for his reaction. The phone went back into my pocket. Next to me, Skylar was still trembling, trying to wipe her face with her jacket sleeve. She looked like a lost little girl who had been unfairly punished. Come on, I said, gripping her elbow tighter. Where, Mama? She sniffled, trying to brace her feet against the pavement. Home? I need to change. Marcus said I look like a scrub. He'll see me like this. Marcus is a fool, I interrupted, my tone harsh but not unkind. And we aren't going home. You're having dinner with the queen tonight. I pulled her toward the waiting line of cabs. Skylar resisted, her eyes darting nervously. Mama, I don't have any money, she whispered as we got into the cab and I gave the address for the Monarch Room. You know how expensive that place is. It's not for us. Look at me. I smell like a kitchen. Quiet, I said, covering her cold hand with mine. Just be quiet and breathe. The Monarch Room. The oldest restaurant in the city, a bastion of tradition where the starched tablecloths crinkled like fresh snow and the waiters moved silently like ghosts. This had been my world years ago, the world I left to save my family. When the cab stopped in front of the massive oak doors with gold-plated handles, Skylar shrank into her seat. I can't go in, she whimpered. Mama, please. People will stare. I got out, walked around the car, and opened her door. Get out, Sky. No. You need to wash the taste of his leftovers out of your mouth, and you're going to do it right here. She climbed out, hunched over, hiding her face in her collar. We entered the lobby. It smelled of expensive wood, beeswax, and a subtle note of vanilla. The silence was thick, respectful. A young hostess in a severe black dress stepped toward us. Her gaze flickered over Skylar's grease-stained sweater and messy hair, and her eyebrows went up. Do you have a reservation? She asked in an icy tone, already preparing to dismiss us. Step aside, Keisha. A soft but commanding voice rang out from the depths of the room. The hostess froze. Approaching us was a tall, gray-haired man in an impeccable tuxedo. Walter. He'd aged. His face was etched with deep lines, but his posture was still ramrod straight. He wasn't walking toward guests. He was walking toward me. Skylar shrank further, expecting us to be thrown out in disgrace. Walter stopped a step away from me and bowed his head in a respectful salute, not a routine nod, but a genuine bow reserved for monarchs or grandmasters. Chef Parker, he said with a warmth that made my eyes prickle. How many years has it been? The hostess's mouth dropped open, but Walter gestured for her to vanish. Hello, Walter. I nodded, trying to keep my voice even. We need a table, the best one. Of course, Naomi. The table by the fireplace is free, just like the old days. He personally led us through the dining room. Heads turned, men in expensive suits, women in evening gowns. They stared at Skylar with confusion, but seeing the deference with which the maitre d' escorted us, their confusion turned to curiosity. We were seated in deep armchairs by the fire. Orange light danced on the linen. Bring us the 82 Bordeaux, Walter, and forget the menu. We'll take the pan-seared filet mignon with a red wine reduction. You know how I like it. It will be done, chef. When Walter left, Skylar finally lifted her head. Tears were in her eyes, but the dread had started to recede, replaced by shock. Mama, she whispered, why did he call you that? Chef Parker? You were just a cook in a cafeteria. I was many things, baby, I replied, unfolding my napkin. Drink the water and straighten your back. You are Naomi Parker's daughter. No one here will dare look at you sideways. The wine arrived. I made Skylar drink a full glass. The alcohol and the warmth of the fireplace began to work. Her shoulders relaxed. The trembling stopped. When the filet mignon was served, tender and melting in her mouth, she took a hesitant bite and started to weep softly. Is it good? I asked, just as her husband had asked her earlier, but without the cruelty. This is real food, she choked out. Mama, I forgot what it tasted like. Wait. You need your strength. While she ate, I watched the room. I was waiting, and I didn't have to wait long. A familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Skylar, sit tight for a minute, I said, rising. I need to powder my nose. I went out to the foyer where the soft waiting couches were. There, nervously clutching his hat, sat my brother Terry Johnson, the man who controlled half the zoning permits in this city, the Grey Cardinal as the papers called him. Right now, he looked less like a cardinal and more like a naughty schoolboy summoned by the principal. His expensive silk suit seemed tight. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He leaped up the moment he saw me. Nate, he started toward me but stopped, caught by my gaze. What happened? You haven't called since Mom's funeral. Sit, I commanded. We sat. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. You remember the late 80s, Terry? I asked, looking him straight in the eye. He paled. His Adam's apple bobbed. Nate, why? You remember the shortage in the warehouse. You were 20. You gambled the money away and raided the companies till you were facing prison. The end of your education, the end of your career. I remember, he whispered, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief. And I took the fall for it, I continued. Gross negligence. Misappropriation. They took away my clearance for the top-tier restaurants. They threw me out of the Culinary Institute's program. I went to work in a public school cafeteria so you could finish college and become the big shot you are now. He stared at the floor, silent. I never asked you for anything, Terry. I lived my little life and didn't stop you from building your big one. But today, it's time to settle the score. What do you need? He asked quickly. Money? How much? I'll wire it. Just name the account. I don't want your dirty money. I leaned closer. I need you to destroy the gilded feather. Terry blinked. Your son-in-law's restaurant? But why? Your family. He is no longer family. He's an animal. I want you to choke him out, not fast, slow. I want him to feel the walls closing in around him and not be able to breathe. I want every day to start with a new inspection. The health department, the IRS, OSHA, the labor board. Unleash every dog you have on him. Terry shifted nervously. Nate, that's not simple. He might have connections. He pays his dues. Terry, I cut him off quietly. If you don't do this, I go to the district attorney's office. I won't tell them about the late 80s. I'll tell them about those school lunch bid schemes you blabbed about to me at Mom's wake when you had too much whiskey. I have a good memory. He froze. The fear in his eyes became primal. He knew I wasn't joking. Fine, he exhaled. Fine, Nate. I'll do it. I'll see what I can pull right now. He opened his briefcase with shaking hands and started rummaging through papers. I happen to have a file here on city properties. I was preparing a report for the mayor on troubled assets. He pulled out a folder and started flipping pages. Here, the gilded feather. The building belongs to the municipality. The lease is subsidized long-term. He scanned the lines and suddenly stopped. A faint, predatory smirk appeared on his face. Look at this, he muttered, handing me the document. Section 14.8. The lease can be unilaterally terminated if the lessee violates standards of moral conduct or public decency, or upon confirmed complaints of unsanitary conditions. I took the paper. That's an old clause. Nobody ever reads it, Terry explained, growing animated. But it's there and it's active. If we can prove it's dirty. It's not just dirty, Terry, I said, standing up. It's a garbage dump. I need an inspector to show up there, the most meticulous one you have, the kind that finds dust in a vacuum. Consider it done, Terry nodded, wiping his brow. His hell begins. I nodded and walked back into the dining room to my daughter. I clutched the lease copy Terry had given me. It was the start, just the start. Hell truly broke loose for Marcus in his gilded feather. I was sitting in my small kitchen, brewing strong coffee, watching the phone on the table. Skylar was asleep in my bedroom, sleeping peacefully for the first time without jolts. I had turned off the ringer on her phone, and the screen flashed silently with calls from her loving husband. Terry kept his word. He didn't just send an inspector. He sent a full-scale raid team in white hazmat suits. They don't walk into a kitchen to say hello. They walk in to find faults, and they always find them. My phone pinged a text from my brother. Code red, immediate closure for remediation official. I allowed myself a slight smile. A code red wasn't just a fine. It was a complete stop to operations. Switched off stoves, tossed prepped food, and a closed sign slapped up right in the middle of the lunch rush. For a restaurant living paycheck to paycheck, it was a catastrophe. Skylar shuffled out of the bedroom, rubbing her sleep-filled eyes. She was wearing my old t-shirt, far too big for her emaciated body. Mama, my phone. Marcus must be going crazy. I was supposed to open the shift. She rushed to the table, grabbed her cell, and her face went white. 50 missed calls. Mama, he's going to kill me. He's texting. She started reading aloud, her voice shaking. Where are you? The health department is here. They're shutting down the kitchen. Did your mother do this? I'm going to sue her. Answer me, or I'll come over there and tear that dump apart. Before she could finish, someone started pounding on my apartment door, not knocking, but beating on it with fists and feet, making the plaster shake. Open up. I know you're in there. Marcus's roar echoed through the stairwell. Skylar huddled in the corner of the kitchen, covering her ears. Don't open it, Mama, please. He's crazy. I calmly placed my coffee mug on the table, took an old cassette recorder from a drawer, pressed record, and slipped it into my apron pocket. Stay put, I ordered my daughter. I walked to the door and flung it open. Marcus stood on the threshold, red-faced, disheveled, with wild eyes. He was breathing heavily, as if he'd run the whole way. He jabbed a finger at me. You old witch. Is this your doing? Hello, Marcus, I said evenly. Don't yell. You'll wake the neighbors. He barged into the hallway, shoving me with his shoulder. I staggered but kept my footing. Where is she? Where is that freeloader? He spotted Skylar cowering in the kitchen and lunged for her. Why aren't you answering the phone? My business is crashing, and you're in here sleeping. Don't you dare go near her. My voice was quiet, but there was enough steel in it to stop Marcus dead in his tracks. He turned to me, his face contorted in a mask of hatred. You think you're so smart. You sicked the inspectors on me. You think I can't wiggle out of this? I eat inspectors for breakfast. I'll pay off whoever I need to, and we'll open tomorrow. He reached into his inner jacket pocket, pulled out an envelope, and threw it at Skylar. It hit her chest and fell to the floor. Here, choke on it. That's your severance pay, you beggar. Take your pennies and get out of my life. I'm filing for divorce. Skylar stared at the envelope, unmoving. A few bills, pitiful crumbs, not even half a monthly paycheck, spilled out. You call your wife a beggar? I asked, taking a step toward him. The wife who worked for you for free, who put all her savings into your restaurant. Marcus burst into laughter, a vicious, hysterical sound. Savings? Those paltry funds were gone the first month of rent. She's dead weight. He pointed a finger at Skylar. I only kept her around because she was convenient, free labor. But now I'm done. I don't need a partner like that. I have a real partner now, a woman with class, with money, not this gray mouse. I froze. My heart skipped a beat, but my face remained impassive. A partner? I repeated, feigning disbelief. You have money for a new partner, but not to pay your cooks? None of your damn business, he roared. I have everything under control. We're opening a new place, a real elite spot. The feather can burn for all I care. I'll bleed it dry and dump it. Let Skylar deal with the debt. Her signature is on the lease agreement. He smirked triumphantly. He felt like a winner. He thought he had humiliated us, crushed us. He didn't realize he had just signed his own death warrant by admitting to deliberate bankruptcy, and the recorder in my pocket caught every word. Get out, I said. Get out of my house. Gladly. He spat on my hardwood floor. You can rot here in poverty. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Skylar slowly slid down the wall to the floor, covering her face. She wasn't crying. She was stunned by his cruelty. I walked over to her, picked up the envelope with the money, and placed it on the table. Get up, Sky. Mama, he's right, she whispered. The lease agreement is in my name. If the restaurant closes, the debts will be hung on me. I'm bankrupt. I'll go to jail. No, you won't. I helped her up and sat her in a chair. I poured her some coffee. Drink. I walked to the window. Down below, I saw Marcus get into his luxury car. He peeled away from the curb, tires screeching. He was in a hurry to his new partner. And that's when it hit me. A code red is a 24-hour closure. I snatched up my phone and dialed Terry. Terry, I said the moment he answered. Check the Gilded Feathers event schedule for tonight immediately. 1 second, Nate. I heard the clack of keys. Tonight, a banquet for City Hall, the deputy mayor's anniversary, 50 people. The deposit is paid in full. I felt the corners of my mouth turn up. Now check the contract terms with the city. What does it say about canceling an event less than 24 hours out due to the vendor's fault? I could hear Terry rustling papers. A fine of triple the cost of the order, plus compensation for damages. Nate, that's huge money. I checked his accounts this morning. He doesn't have it. I know, I said. He thought he could bribe the inspector. He didn't expect the restaurant to be shut down today of all days. He just canceled the mayor's banquet. He didn't just lose money. He spat in the face of the city government. If he doesn't return the money and pay the fine within 3 days, Terry's voice became hard, professional. City Hall will initiate forced collection, account freezes, property seizures. Exactly, I confirmed. But he said he has a new partner and plans to dump the feather and all its debt on Skylar. On Skylar? Terry repeated. The catering contract was signed by him as the CEO of the LLC. Skylar is only the property leaseholder. The fine will fall on Marcus's legal entity. But he'll try to move the assets before the accounts are frozen. What are you planning? My brother asked. I need to know who this partner is and where he's moving the money. He just left my place. He's probably heading to her. I can't tail him, Nate. I'm not a private detective. You don't have to. Just keep his accounts under surveillance. And me, I'm going rat hunting. I hung up. Skylar was staring at me with wide eyes. Mama, what's going on? What fine? Your husband just dug his own grave, baby, I said, taking off my apron and putting on my coat. He canceled a banquet for people you don't cross, and now he needs money, a lot of it fast. He's going to his mistress, and I'm going to follow him. I'm coming with you, Skylar jumped up. No, you stay here. Clean yourself up, wash your face, find some decent clothes. When I get back, you need to look not like a victim but like a boss. I left the apartment. The wind outside had picked up, but I felt hot. The hunt was on. I headed straight for the Gilded Feather. The restaurant was dark. Bright yellow tape with the health department seal and a closed sign hung on the door, Sanitation Day. But the service entrance was open. The staff had been ordered to come in and scrub the kitchen clean, even if they wouldn't be paid. People always hope. I tapped a rhythmic knock on the back door. 2 short, 1 long, the supplier's knock. The door cracked open, and the sous chef, a young guy named Devin, peered out. He looked defeated, eyes red. Naomi Parker, he said, surprised, letting me in. Marcus was screaming on the phone, ordering us to scrub everything with bleach until it shines. Said if we don't open tomorrow, we're all fired without severance. The kitchen reeked of chemicals, stinging my eyes. The cooks were listlessly wiping down the walls and equipment. The atmosphere was funereal. Where's Skylar? Devin asked quietly. Is she okay? We heard him. She's safe, I answered, walking past him. I came to get her things from her office. Oh, sure. The office is open. Marcus turned everything upside down looking for documents, and then he bolted. I nodded and walked into the tiny storage room proudly labeled Manager's Office. It was a mess. Folders on the floor, desk drawers pulled out. Marcus had been looking for money or anything he could sell. I closed the door and approached the desk. Marcus was too lazy to run double books in Excel and too paranoid to trust cloud storage. He wrote everything down in his leather-bound journal that he never parted with. Almost never. It wasn't on the desk or in the drawers. I knelt and checked under the desk. There, tucked behind the computer tower, was the thick journal with the bookmark ribbon. Marcus must have dropped it in his haste and not noticed. I opened it. The pages were covered in his sprawling handwriting. Meetings, orders, numbers. I flipped to the recent entries, checks and receipts tucked between the pages. Interior designer services, $30,000. Italian furniture purchase deposit, $50,000. Rent for Fifth Avenue space, $20,000. All huge sums from the days when he told Skylar they didn't have money for groceries. The recipient was consistently a woman named Tiffany, or an LLC under her name. I pulled out one of the receipts. It had the address, Fifth Avenue, building number 5, the most elite part of downtown. I hid the journal and checks in my purse. Devin, I called out, leaving the office. If Marcus asks, I didn't take anything. Just looking for Skylar's coffee mug. Got it, Naomi Parker. Mum's the word. I stood on Fifth Avenue. Building number 5 was an old mansion with enormous storefront windows on the ground floor. The windows were covered with paper, but one spot had peeled away. Above the entrance, a new stylish sign hung, covered in plastic film. but the wind tugged at the edge. I could make out the name, the Obsidian Compass. I walked closer to the window crack. The lights were on inside. The room was nearly finished. White leather sofas, crystal chandeliers, an onyx bar, luxury screaming money. In the center stood Marcus laughing. Next to him was a tall, slender woman in a fitted sand-colored dress, Tiffany. She held a glass of champagne. Marcus had one arm around her waist, pointing at the chandeliers, showing off. I pulled out my phone and snapped pictures through the glass, their faces clear, Marcus kissing Tiffany, Marcus raising a toast. The picture clicked into place. He wasn't just stealing from the Feathers till. He was systematically draining the business, funneling all the working capital into this new project. He hadn't paid suppliers, skimped on food, and made his wife eat scraps, just to buy these chandeliers for his mistress. He planned to bankrupt the Gilded Feather. Skylar, as the leaseholder, would be left with debts to the city, suppliers, and staff, while he would open the Obsidian Compass under Tiffany's name and live happily ever after. I was about to leave when Marcus took a folder from his briefcase and placed it on the bar counter. Tiffany leaned in to sign something, but Marcus stopped her. He signed it himself, then pulled out a rubber stamp. I zoomed in on my camera. It was a personal signature stamp. I remembered the papers from the journal. There was one other document, folded in 4, that I hadn't examined. I moved into the shadow of an archway and took it out. It was a loan agreement. Borrower, Sterling Marcus. Guarantor, Sterling Skylar Parker. Amount, $1 million. Creditor, Leon Miller, private investor. I went cold. $1 million with predatory interest rates and Skylar's signature in the guarantor field. I traced my finger over my daughter's signature. It was close, but I knew her handwriting. Her S was always rounded, soft. Here, the tail was sharp, jagged. It was a forgery. Marcus had forged his wife's signature to take out a loan from a loan shark, Leon Miller, known on the streets as the Lion. He didn't sue for default. He sent people with bats. If Marcus didn't pay, and he wouldn't, with the Feather closed and the new place not yet open, Miller would come for the guarantor. He would come for Skylar. My hands trembled, but I clenched them into fists. Fear gave way to icy determination. This wasn't just about money or bankruptcy. This was about my daughter's life. I looked back at the windows. Marcus and Tiffany were slow dancing without music, celebrating. They thought they had one. Dance, Marcus, I whispered into the darkness. Dance while your legs still work. I turned and walked away. I needed to see Skylar immediately, show her the truth no matter how terrifying, and call Terry again, this time for a much bigger weapon. On the way, I stopped at a copy center and made copies of all the documents and photos. I hid the originals in a safe place, a locker at the train station. With people like Miller and Marcus, you couldn't risk losing the only evidence. When I got home, Skylar was sitting on the sofa, dressed in clean jeans and a sweater. She'd brushed her hair, but her face was pale. Mama, she jumped up when she saw me. Where were you? Did you find out anything? I walked silently into the room, sat at the table, and laid out everything. The photos of Marcus and Tiffany, the furniture receipts, and finally the loan agreement with the forged signature. Sit down, Sky, I said, and look closely. This is the price of your blind love. She picked up the photos, her hands shaking. Then the receipts. Then the agreement. $1 million, she whispered, her voice cracking. Guarantor. Mama, I didn't sign this. I never. I know, I said. He forged your signature. He took money from gangsters and put the debt on you. He plans to open a new restaurant with his mistress, and the collectors will come to you. Skylar looked up at me. There was no more fear in her eyes, no tears. Instead, the same cold fire that burned in me was igniting in her. He wanted to kill me, she said softly. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. He didn't just leave me. He wanted to destroy me, physically. Yes. Skylar slowly placed the agreement back on the table. She straightened up. Her face hardened, her features sharpened. In that moment, she looked just like me. What are we going to do, Mama? She asked firmly. I placed my hand on the phone. We're going to let him think he won. We're going to let him open his compass, and then we're going to pull the rug out from under him. I dialed Terry's number. Terry, I said when he answered. The plan is changing. We need to buy the debt, Marcus's debt to Leon Miller, $1 million. Find the money, mortgage my condo, your lake house, whatever it takes. But that promissory note has to be ours by morning. Are you crazy? Why do we want his debt? Because the agreement has a clause, I said, recalling the fine print. In case of interest default, the creditor has the right to seize any other business assets of the debtor, including his stake in new ventures. You want to take his new restaurant? I want to take everything from him, I replied, down to the last fork. Silence hung on the line. Terry was absorbing the scale of my plan. Nate, he finally breathed. That's genius. But Miller is dangerous. If he finds out you or I are behind this. He won't. I cut him off. Use a shell corporation, the one from the landscaping bids, Vector. It's still alive. It is, my brother chuckled. How do you remember these things? I remember everything, Terry. Act now. I need that note by morning. I hung up and looked at Skylar. She was studying the photos of her husband with another woman, not looking away anymore, but studying the enemy. Mama, she said calmly, I need to go to the Gilded Feather. Why? The lease documents, the originals are in the safe there. If Marcus decides to run, he might destroy them to pin everything on me permanently. I need to get them. I nodded. The girl was growing up before my eyes. Let's go. We arrived at the restaurant after dark. The streets were deserted, only the wind chasing scraps of newspaper across the sidewalk. The yellow tape on the door had been torn off, but the closed sign was still there. Skylar opened the service door with her key. Inside, it was quiet and dark, smelling of stale air and bleach. We walked into the office. The safe was built into the wall behind an old wine map poster. Skylar entered the code. The door clicked open. Empty. He took them, Skylar gasped, running her hand over the empty metal shelf. Don't panic. I turned on my phone flashlight and illuminated the interior. Look deeper. In the very corner, tucked into a crack, was a folded sheet of paper. When Marcus hastily emptied the contents, this one sheet had caught and remained behind. Skylar pulled it out and unfolded it. It's a notice from City Hall, she read. Termination of the premises lease. Due to violation of the Moral Conduct Clause, the city is seizing the property in connection with discovered use of the premises for activities related to illegal lending, debt obligations to persons with criminal records. Terry had worked faster than I thought. He had used the information about Leon Miller to annul the lease immediately. What does this mean? Skylar asked. It means the marshals will be here to catalog the assets, I explained. The equipment, furniture, dishes. Everything will be auctioned off to cover the debts to the city. Skylar's phone pinged a message from Marcus. She opened it and gave a bitter laugh. Look. On the screen, Marcus with a glass of whiskey, sprawled in an armchair. Caption, heard the news? The city's taking your trash heap for debts. Congrats, you're officially homeless now. I'm washing my hands of it. Good luck with the marshal's sweetheart. He was happy. He thought he had gotten rid of the dead weight, that losing the Gilded Feather was Sky's problem, not his. He was sure his new project, the Obsidian Compass, registered under a new LLC, was safe. Idiot, I said softly. What a self-obsessed idiot. Mama, what if Miller finds out the feather is closed? Skylar asked. He'll come for the money to me. He won't, I replied, because we won't be paying Miller's debt. We'll be buying it. I sat in a notary's office. Terry had sent his discreet lawyer, Elias, who spoke little and worked fast. On the table lay the contract of assignment, the transfer of debt collection rights. Across from me sat Miller's representative, a hulk in a leather jacket, uncomfortable in the sterile office. The funds have been wired, Elias said, confirming receipt on his laptop. The brute checked his phone, grunted, and nodded. Confirmed. The documents are yours. He tossed the folder with the original loan agreement and promissory note onto the table. Tell Marcus Sterling hello, he smirked. Miller doesn't forgive debts, but he sells them expensive. When he was gone, I picked up the folder. It felt heavy, and it was my daughter's fate and Marcus's. I opened the agreement and found the clause. Clause 7.4. In the event of payment default or threat of insolvency, the creditor has the right to levy execution against any other assets of the borrower, including shares in other legal entities, movable and immovable property, regardless of acquisition date. Elias adjusted his glasses. Naomi Parker, you understand, as of this signing, you are the sole creditor of Mr. Sterling. He has already missed the first payment. You can demand full return immediately. Exactly, I finished. And since he has no money, I'm seizing his stake in the Obsidian Compass. Technically, Elias clarified, we file for precautionary measures. The court places a lien on his share. Its value roughly equals the debt plus interest and penalties. You take the business in lieu of payment. File it, I said. Right now. Elias nodded. The order will be ready soon. I left the office. The sun was shining, but the air was frosty. I called Skylar. Get ready, baby. Put on the prettiest dress you have, the severe black one I gave you for your 30th birthday, and heels. Where are we going? We're going to a grand opening, I replied. There's a big party at the Obsidian Compass tonight. It would be rude not to congratulate the owner. Mama, I'm scared, she admitted. Fear is good, I said. It keeps us cautious. But today, he should be afraid. I picked her up. Skylar looked magnificent. The severe black dress fit perfectly, emphasizing a thinness that now looked aristocratic. She had pulled her hair into a tight bun and put on bright red lipstick. War paint. Are you ready? Yes. We got into the cab. As it pulled away, I looked out at the passing city. I remembered riding to my first cooking competition, shaking with fear, but I had won. Today, I wasn't going to cook. Today, I was going to serve a dish best served cold. Mama, Skylar asked softly, what about Tiffany? Tiffany is a migrating bird. I gave a small, dry smile. She flies where it's warm and full. The moment she realizes the feeding trough is closed, she'll disappear. We pulled up to the Obsidian Compass. Guests' cars lined the street. Music played, windows glowed. Inside, the room was packed with the cream of society, come to see the trendy restaurateur's new project. Marcus stood at the bar, beaming, glass in hand. Tiffany draped over his shoulder laughing. I pulled the folder from my purse. The court order to seize the property and transfer ownership on top, still warm from the printer. Let's go, I told Skylar. We got out. The security guard tried to stop us. Invitations. I walked past as if he didn't exist. My confidence was so thick he lost his nerve and backed away. Skylar followed, heels clicking. We pushed open the heavy glass doors. The music was loud. Laughter, clinking glasses. No one noticed us until we cut through the crowd like an icebreaker, heading straight for the bar. Marcus saw us first. His smile froze. He slammed his glass down, champagne sloshing over. What are you doing here? Security. The music cut out. Guests turned. Tiffany wrinkled her nose in disgust. Marcus, is this your ex? She drawled. Ugh, bad form, coming without an invitation. You're mistaken, I said loudly, my voice carrying across the room. We aren't guests. We're the owners. I placed the folder on the bar counter in front of Marcus. He laughed, a nervous, strained sound. You're delusional, old lady. This is my restaurant, mine. Read it. I pointed at the document. The cross-collateralization clause. You didn't pay your debts, Marcus, and now your debt belongs to me. Everything you own along with it. He snatched the papers. His eyes skimmed the text. His face went gray. His hands shook. This is a fake, he shrieked. This can't be. Miller would never sell the debt to you. Miller loves money more than he loves you, I replied, and I paid cash. 2 men in marshals' uniforms appeared in the doorway, walking toward us. Marcus looked around, trapped. Tiffany, he cried, grabbing her arm. Tell them it's a mistake. This is my business. Tiffany snatched her arm away. She looked at the documents, the marshals, then me. Understanding dawned. Your business? She asked coldly. You said you had no debts. You said you took care of everything. I did. It's all them. He pointed a shaking finger at us. You're bankrupt, Marcus, I said. This restaurant now belongs to Skylar Sterling in settlement of your debt. Tiffany stepped back. You lied to me, she hissed. You're a pauper. She turned and walked toward the exit without looking back. Marcus was left alone, surrounded by guests, marshals, and us. Cornered. In his eyes I saw the madness of a rat with nowhere to run. He roared like a wounded animal and lunged for the bar, grabbing a heavy bottle of expensive whiskey and raising it high. You won't get anything, he screamed, spraying spit. This is mine. I built this. He slammed the bottle onto the marble countertop. Glass shattered. Dark liquid poured onto white tablecloths. Guests shrieked and scattered. I'll burn this whole place down, he yelled, waving the broken neck at the approaching marshals. No one gets it, you hear? His eyes bulged, tie askew, face red splotched. He kicked a chair over, hurled a vase at the mirror behind the bar. The mirror cracked and crashed down. Marcus, stop it. I cried, stepping forward, shielding Skylar. Shut up, he screamed. This is all your fault. You poisoned her mind. She was obedient until you stuck your nose in. He turned his wild gaze to Skylar, pointing the sharp shard at her. And you think you can run this? You're a zero, a nobody. You'll die in the gutter without me. I created you. I dressed you. I gave you a name. Skylar stood perfectly still. She didn't hide behind me. She looked at him with strange, almost scientific interest, as if he were a nasty insect. I did everything for us, he suddenly wailed, sensing threats weren't working. Sky, baby, just tell them I was trying. I wanted us to be rich. Yes, I messed up, I took a loan, but that's business risk. You're my wife. You have to support me. We're a team. I love you, Sky. It was pathetic, sickening. A second ago he was ready to kill us. Now he played on pity. Skylar stepped out from behind me. She walked up to him, ignoring the shard. A team, she asked quietly. Silence hung heavy. Everyone waited. Yes, family, Marcus nodded, sensing hope. We'll fix everything. Get rid of this old crow. Sell this restaurant. Pay the debts. Start from scratch together. I love you, Sky. Skylar stared at him another second. Then her hand shot up. The slap was so loud it snapped like a wire. Marcus's head jerked sideways. A red mark bloomed on his cheek. I watched you feed your dog steak while I ate rice from a trash can, she said, voice level icy. Every word dropped like a stone. I watched you buy that tramp furs while I wore patch tights. Don't you dare talk to me about family. Marcus froze, mouth agape. He hadn't expected this. He was used to Skylar crying, begging. But a different woman stood before him. You, he croaked, raising the bottleneck again. Rage washed over him. You bitch. He lunged. The marshals were too far. I lunged for my daughter, but I was too late. Put the glass down, son, a calm, authoritative voice boomed. Walter walked out of the kitchen, flinging the doors open. He wore a pristine white chef's jacket. I had asked him to come early to assess the Compass's kitchen. Marcus froze. Who the hell are you? He yelled. Walter wiped his hands with a towel. Behind him appeared two burly sous chefs from the Monarch Room. A real chef creates, Walter said with contempt, eyeing the destroyed bar. Rats only spoil the ingredients. You're not a restaurateur, boy. You're a vandal. Get out. Marcus screamed and charged the older man. It was his last mistake. One marshal tackled him from behind. A crack of the baton below the knees, and Marcus collapsed, dropping the shard. The second marshal twisted his arms behind his back. Let go. You have no right. I'll complain, he shrieked, writhing like a worm. More people entered, police officers. In front walked a detective with a folder. I recognized him, Terry's man. The detective crouched beside the prostrate Marcus. Mr. Sterling? Yes. Arrest them. They stole my business. They attacked me. You're under arrest, the detective said calmly, on suspicion of large-scale fraud, tax evasion, and document forgery. Marcus fell silent, eyes darting. What taxes? What forgery? That's slander. We have testimony from your bookkeeper and documents seized from the Gilded Feather office, double bookkeeping, slush fund, fictitious contracts, as well as a statement from Skylar Sterling regarding the forgery of her signature on the loan agreement. Forensic analysis has confirmed it's not hers. Marcus went limp. He knew this was the end, not just bankruptcy, but prison. The marshals lifted him and dragged him toward the exit. As he passed us, he lifted his head and looked at Skylar, fear and pathetic pleading in his gaze. "Sky," he whispered. "Sky, help me." Skylar turned away. She walked to the bar, took a napkin, and wiped her hands as if soiled by something filthy. "Take him away," she said softly. When the doors closed behind the police, silence fell. The guests who had witnessed the drama were quiet. I walked up to my daughter and placed my hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay?" She took a deep breath, exhaled. Her shoulders straightened. "I'm fine, Mama. For the first time in a long time, I'm fine." She looked around. The destroyed bar, terrified guests, whiskey stains on the floor. "Excuse me," she said loudly to the room. "I sincerely apologize for that display. The technical difficulties have been resolved." She managed a small, genuine smile. "Unfortunately, the evening is ruined, and we cannot continue the party in the same spirit. But the kitchen is functional, if you'll allow. It will treat everyone to dessert and champagne on the house's compensation." Guests exchanged glances. Someone smiled hesitantly. Then scattered applause grew into a standing ovation. "Bravo!" someone shouted. Skylar turned to Walter. "Chef, can you organize desserts? We have prepped items." Walter smiled. "For you, Madam Sterling, absolutely. Boys, get to work." The kitchen sprang to life. I looked at my daughter and barely recognized her. Where was the beaten mouse in the dirty apron? Before me stood a boss, a woman who had walked through hell and emerged with her head held high. "Mama," she came to me and hugged me fiercely. "Thank you. You did it all yourself," I stroked her head. "I only handed you the knife." "What now?" she asked, looking at the recovering dining room. "I have a restaurant and a mountain of debt, and I don't know how to run any of it." "You'll learn," I said. "You have Walter, you have Devin, you have me." She pulled back and looked me in the eye. "Are you going somewhere?" I smiled enigmatically. "Let's discuss it later. Now go, your guests are waiting." She nodded, adjusted her dress, and walked into the dining room to talk, apologize, and charm. She was born for this. Marcus had just made her forget it. I retreated to the window's shadow. Outside, blue police lights flashed, taking my son-in-law to his new life behind bars. I texted Terry, "It's over." "He's booked." "Thank you." Reply, "Glad to help, sis." "Debt paid." "Paid," I typed. I put the phone away and looked at my reflection in the dark glass, a tired woman in a gray coat, but with fire in her eyes. I had done what I had to do. I saved my child. But the story wasn't quite over. There was one final touch I had to do for myself. Marcus struggled as he was dragged toward the exit. Right by the doors, he jerked, and a wad of cash fell from his jacket pocket, rubber-banded, fanning out in large bills. A police officer picked up a bill, held it to the light. "Interesting," he drawled. "Mr. Sterling, where did you get this cash? You just claimed you couldn't pay the Gilded Feather employees." Marcus went whiter. "Personal savings," he stammered. "Or revenue from the till you didn't log," the detective suggested, collecting the rest. "We'll check. Looks like embezzlement joins the charges." Marcus went limp. He was led away. The doors closed, muffling his cries. Silence returned, relieved. The air felt cleaner, as if rot had been carried out. I looked at the scattered bills. This was money stolen from Skylar, money she could have lived on while he starved her. Skylar stood next to me, looking at the door through which her husband had disappeared. "Will he do time?" she asked quietly. "A long time," I replied. "Terry will make sure." Fraud, forgery, tax evasion, fraudulent bankruptcy. He's looking at 5 to 7 years. Skylar nodded. "Good." She turned to me. "Mama, what about the restaurant, this one?" "It's yours now," I confirmed. "But it's not a gift, Sky. It's work, hard, dirty work. You'll clean up the mountain of debt he created. Suppliers, staff, morale." "I can handle it," she interrupted, no doubt in her voice. "I know this business from the inside. I saw how he ruined everything. I know how not to do it, and how to do it. I'll learn." Walter walked up, holding a tray of champagne glasses. "To the new owner," he offered with a smile. Skylar took a glass. Her hand didn't shake. To freedom, she said and sipped. The evening ended late. Guests, soothed by champagne and Walter's desserts, dispersed, discussing the scandal that would be the city's top gossip for weeks. It was the best advertisement possible. Everyone would want to visit the place where a wife won back a business from her tyrant husband. The three of us remained, me, Skylar, Walter. The staff cleaned broken glass and washed the floor. Naomi Parker. Walter walked up to me, wiping his hands. I checked the kitchen. Equipment excellent, but the menu, terrible. All flesh, no soul. That's Skylar's worry now, I said, nodding toward my daughter reviewing documents at a table. And you? Walter asked, squinting cunningly. You won't stay to help? I shook my head. No, Walter. My time in the kitchen has passed. I did what I had to do. I cleared the space. Now it's her time to build. I walked over to Skylar. She looked up from the papers. Mama, the accounts are a disaster. I placed my hand over the page. You'll figure it out. I believe in you. You're leaving. I'm tired, Sky. I need to go home. She stood and hugged me tightly. Thank you, Mama, for everything. I'll pay you back the money you spent to buy the debt. You will when you earn it. For now, just be happy and never let anyone wipe their feet on you again. Never, she promised. I walked out of the restaurant. The night was cold and starry. The city slept, unaware of the passions that had raged behind those walls. I took out my phone and dialed one more number, not Terry's. Hello, a man's voice with a slight accent answered. It's Naomi. Is your offer still on the table? A pause, then delighted laughter. Naomi, darling, have you finally decided? Yes, Giovanni. I've decided. When should I expect you? Soon. I just need to pack my things. Tuscany is waiting for you, Naomi. My hotel is waiting. Your kitchen is waiting. I smiled, truly from the heart, for the first time in years. I'll be there, Giovanni. I hung up. I hadn't told Skylar the whole truth. I wasn't just going home to sleep. I was leaving this life, the retiree's life, living only for children and grandchildren, making smothered pork chops in a small kitchen and watching television in the evenings. That evening at the Monarch Room, when I went to powder my nose, I hadn't only run into Terry. I had bumped into Giovanni, an Italian, owner of a small boutique hotel in Tuscany. We had met years ago when he came to the States for an exchange program and I was a young sous chef. He'd asked me to go with him then. I refused, for my family, my brother, my mother. But that night he recognized me and asked again. Naomi, I have everything, vineyards, olive groves, guests, but no chef who understands the soul of food like you. Come. Just cook. Just live. I had said I would think about it, but I already knew. I looked up at the windows of the obsidian compass. The lights were on. Skylar was starting a new life, and so was I. I walked down the night street, steps loud and confident. In my pocket was a one-way ticket to Italy, to the dream I had postponed for half a lifetime but was finally claiming. I was sitting at a table in the corner, trying to be inconspicuous. The restaurant buzzed like a beehive, not the chaotic, dirty buzz of the gilded feather, but the sound of success, clinking glasses, muffled laughter, gentle clatter of expensive silverware on fine china. The sign above the entrance had changed. In gold on black, matriarch, the name Skylar chose herself, without my advice. I watched my daughter in the center of the dining room, giving instructions to waiters. She wore a severe sand-colored pantsuit, hair in an elegant knot. She laughed, greeting regulars. No note of fear in that laughter. She had lost weight, but it was the healthy leanness of a woman who works hard and loves what she does. Your coffee, madam, a waiter appeared. Thank you. The chair opposite me was pulled out. Terry sat down, sighing heavily. He had changed too, grayer, but calmer. The absence of constant fear had been good for him. Well, how is she? He asked, nodding toward Skylar. She's handling it, I replied, sipping coffee. The menu is completely revamped. Walter helped set up the kitchen, but look at that dish on the next table. Duck breast with figs. Her recipe. She remembered me making it when she was a child and updated it for the modern palate. Terry grunted. I never would have thought it. I always considered her soft. She is soft, Terry, like water. And water wears down stone. My brother was quiet, looking at the tablecloth. Marcus got 6 years, medium security. His lawyer filed an appeal, but with the evidence we gathered, he had no chance. Good, I said simply. Let him sit. It'll do him good to think about his life. And Tiffany? She left for Miami after the trial. Found herself some sugar daddy. Their kind always floats. Terry looked at me closely. The debt is paid, Nate. I set my cup on the saucer. The clink sounded like a period at the end of a sentence. Paid, Terry, completely. You helped me save my daughter. I forgot about the late 80s. We're even. I took a set of keys from my purse, placed them on the table, and slid them toward him. What's this? The keys to my condo. Terry froze, eyes wide. Why? Are you moving in with Skylar? No. I leaned down and picked up the small suitcase by my feet. Give them to Sky if she needs a place, or sell them and give her the money. I don't need them anymore. Nate, what are you talking about? His voice cracked. Where are you going? I smiled. Tuscany, Terry. He stared as if I were insane. Tuscany? Italy? But you're 64. Where will you go? How will you live? I'm going to work, I replied calmly. Giovanni is waiting. I'm going to be head chef at his hotel. I'll make pasta, drink wine, watch sunsets over the vineyards. I'm going to live, Terry, the life I put on pause to keep you out of jail. Terry was silent, looking at me as if seeing me for the first time. In his eyes, surprise and envy. The envy of a man who built a career and power but never became free. You're serious? Absolutely. My flight is in 3 hours. Skylar walked up to our table. She saw the suitcase, the keys. The smile slipped from her face. Mama, she looked at me, then Terry. What's happening? I stood, putting on my coat. I'm leaving Sky. Where? The lake house. To Italy for good. She froze. Panic flashed in her eyes, the same childish fear from when Mama left for work. But what about me? The restaurant? Mama, I can't do this without you. I took her hands, warm and strong. You already did it, I said firmly. Look around, this is all you. You don't need a nanny. You don't need me to hold your hand. You are the owner of Matriarch, and I'm just a mother who wants to live a little for herself. Tears glistened, but she didn't cry. She understood. Will you come back? She asked softly. I'll send you recipes, I smiled, and wait for you to visit. Come when you get tired of success. I'll feed you real risotto. I kissed her forehead, shook my stupefied brother's hand, and picked up my suitcase. Goodbye. I walked toward the exit without looking back. Behind me, the noise of the restaurant, clinking dishes, voices of people. The music of a life that continued. But now I was playing my own melody. The door swung open, letting in crisp autumn air. I took a deep breath. It smelled of rain and fallen leaves, but I could already smell basil and sun-warmed stone. I was free.